It's my pleasure to welcome you back to the second day of the Personalized Medicine Coalition's 15th Annual Personalized Medicine Conference at Harvard Medical School in the Joseph C. Martin Auditorium. I want to introduce now Gary Stone, who is the Executive Director of Intermountain Precision Genomics Institute in Utah. Gary and his team, including Lincoln Nadald, who is on the board of the Personalized Medicine Coalition, have been instrumental in not only the success of this conference, but also the initiative that we undertake 365 days a year to promote personalized medicine. And so with that as an introduction, I want to turn it over to Gary to say a few words to welcome us. Thank you, Gary.
Good morning. Well, has this been an incredible conference so far? I can't hear you. Has this been an incredible conference so far? Yes. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, I want to just give you a little bit of a perspective. It's strange for me to be treated in a special way as a sponsor. It's awkward. And let me tell you why. We do sponsor this conference, but there's a specific reason why we do. And it's because of our altruistic approach and desire to help transform medicine. And so we've had the opportunity as leaders in precision medicine to work with many different institutions across the globe. We've had the opportunity to work with other conferences. And I don't want to sound disparaging about any other conference when I say this. But when I think about the work that we need to do as a group, we need the right coalition with the right people who can really help to transform, not just in terms of technology and access to technology, but transform the globe from a policy perspective to a payer perspective to a leadership perspective. And in all of my experience working with Dr. Nadald and building the precision medicine program at Intermountain Healthcare, it became clear to me that we have an opportunity to change the world. And I don't say that lightly, and I want to explain that a little further. As a clinician and as a registered nurse, I have had the opportunity not just to work in the medical industry and understand what's happening with a patient clinically, but I feel like as a nurse, I've had a unique perspective as a patient advocate. And as I have watched medicine grow and evolve and change, I've seen devices come onto the market, right? And I've seen improvement incrementally in process and standards of care, but never have I seen a transformative effort like genomics and precision medicine. It fundamentally transforms the underlying medical science that it changes the health of our populations. So the people in this room have an opportunity to come together through this coalition to help change the world, to relieve human suffering, and to help people live the most healthiest lives in a personalized way as possible. The Personalized Medicine Coalition has the right mix of people and the right mix of members, and I believe the right conference to really help us come together to effect change comprehensively, not just in terms of technology, not just in terms of policy, but comprehensively. So it is our honor and our pleasure to sponsor, and we will continue to sponsor the Personalized Medicine Coalition because we are like-minded in our efforts to change the world. And with that said, I thank you and look forward to working with you.
It's now my privilege and honor to introduce Joseph B. Martin, Dean Emeritus, Harvard Medical School. I've never had the opportunity of introducing someone in an auditorium that's named after him. So it is a real honor. But for those of you not from Harvard that may not know him, Dr. Martin served 10 years as Dean of the Faculty of Medicine from 1997 to 2007. In 1999, he helped establish the Dana-Farber Cancer Center, an innovative collaboration which brings together 7 Harvard-affiliated institutions, which all by itself is a miracle. His intent is to reduce the burden of cancer. He also led the formation of the Harvard Neuro Discovery Center, a virtual center of researchers working together on understanding prevention, causes, and treatment of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Dr. Martin is a member of the Institute of Medicine, a fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, and an honorary member and past president of the American Neurological Association. He is author of over 300 papers and publications, and his most recent publication is a book called From Alfalfa to Ivy, Memoir of a Harvard Medical School Dean, published in 2011. Dr. Martin, please.
Well, thank you for inviting me to participate. If you think it's awkward to talk about yourself as you did, think about talking about yourself in your own auditorium. I say to those who congratulate me that the way Harvard does things, if they name something for you while you're here, they take it away after you're gone. So enjoy while we can. Is Raju here? Raju Kuchapa? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Raju came, we recruited him as a joint collaboration between the partners hospitals, which had formed in 1994, the Mass General and the Brigham and Women's Hospital. And they put partners a significant amount of money into a new genetics initiative. And after an extensive search, Raju was our selection. He came in about 2001, I believe. This building was completed in 2003. And this conference began, now the 15th, just a year or so after that. And Raju and I talked a lot about how to organize this kind of a gathering that would bring together academia and industry in the most profitable way. So I'm going to do something I've not ever done before, and I'm going to tell you a personal story. These are my parents. My father was born in Hagerstown, Maryland in 1912, and he moved to Alberta, Canada with his parents and my grandparents in 1924. And my mother was born in Altoona, Pennsylvania, and she was 2 years old when they moved to Alberta. Now, obviously, those of you who know something about Pennsylvania culture will recognize them as Pennsylvania Old Mennonites. They were accompanied by their grandparents, my grandparents on both sides. It's a picture of my grandfather, Grandpa Raymer, who was the minister of the little church that was founded in Dutchess, Alberta. And that's me with a Brownie Hawkeye camera, showing that there was no religious opposition to taking photographs in this particular group. So my parents were youngsters when they immigrated as homesteaders to Canadian Pacific Railway homestead land in Alberta. And so the X here at the bottom shows where they came from, and the X there shows where they moved to. And this is a picture of Alberta where I was born, and the X down at the bottom just by the dinosaur park, and near Calgary where the famous rodeo and stampede is, and not far away from Banff and Jasper. That's where I grew up. Wonderful, wonderful place. And of course, if you're interested in medical school in Alberta in 1958, there's only one medical school, that's in the University of Alberta, and in Edmonton, and so I attended there beginning in 1957. This is the little house that I grew up in. You can see the irrigation ditches around the farmland there. It was a wonderfully productive prairie soil, with a Bazzano Dam across the Bow River to irrigate this whole area by flood irrigation. And literally, this is the Alaska Highway. During World War II, I watched a lot of American infantry and various vehicles traveling from Havre, Montana, and from North Dakota, Havre, North Dakota, right by us on that road going to Alaska. And this was the little town of Dutchess, about 300 people. My father went into business, and that centerpiece there is a Dutchess garage, which sold John Deere farm machinery and Chrysler and Plymouth cars. So I grew up as a grease monkey, selling gas and changing the oil in cars. Now, the reason this is relevant to our meeting today is that I grew up 30 miles from a Hutterite colony. And the Hutterites are a remarkable Anabaptist sect, the same origins that I have, with the beginnings in southern Germany and Switzerland in 1525. And as many persecuted Anabaptists were, they migrated 5 or 6 different times, moving east, as you can see from the map here, from Moravia into Transylvania, eventually to the Ukraine, and then in the late 1800s migrated from Russia, Ukraine, to North America. And their settlements were almost entirely established within a few provinces and states in the Midwest. And you can see where they were. They came to Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, Montana, North and South Dakota, and a few in Wisconsin and Minnesota. The Hutterites live in colonies in a highly mechanized society. Here's a picture of a colony in Alberta showing the use of wind for energy. They have a characteristic layout of each of the colonies with a central dining facility, a central school, and then living quarters surrounding that area. They're highly mechanized. They buy large properties in the Midwest. They use farm machinery, the most modern variety, and they are highly successful in the farming business. Here's some picture of some of the women in a Hutterite colony husking corn. They work together to produce a lot of farm products which are sold locally, often to the chagrin of local stores who see them coming in with prices that are far more competitive than you might get in a regular store. They have their own schools. They often have an outside school teacher come to teach the children. Now, the relevance of this is my first research experience in medical school, just after I'd finished medical school, was a Hutterite study that was initiated by Arthur Steinberg, Case Western University in Cleveland. And the study was to look at genetic drift amongst this inbred cousins marrying cousins society, which was 400 plus years old. And so my wife, Rachel, and I joined the project, visiting the colonies, offering free medical examinations and consultation in exchange for blood and urine samples to measure the blood groups. And this work eventually was published by Arthur Steinberg as a book looking at the statistical analysis of genetic drift using the crudest of markers as we look back now, which were the different types of blood groups. This is followed on then by my getting to know John Hostetter, who was in Edmonton at the time I was in medical school, originally an Amish man from Pennsylvania who ended up as a sociologist with a PhD from Penn State. And he and Victor McCusick became very close friends, as I'm sure many of you are aware, and collaborated on genetic studies, both in the Amish and with the Hutterites. We first met in 1963, a year after I graduated, while doing these genetic studies. And one of the experiences I had in the various colony greetings of the people that I examined was one day in came 3 siblings in their 20s who were about 30 inches high. Normal mentation. They took care of the chickens and the ducks, appropriate to their size. They were perfectly normal into every function except growth. And I talked to them and said, you know, this is probably a growth hormone deficiency. You probably are lacking growth hormone. Now, this is 1963, before there was any real therapy for it. I said, why don't you come with me to Edmonton and we'll see if we can do something to help you. They thought about it overnight and said, you know, God made us this way. We're very happy with who we are, and we don't think we'll take advantage of that. So I forgot about it, went back to work, finished neurology training in Case Western in Cleveland. And one day, Scientific American comes out, and there is a picture of my 3 patients on the front page, and an article by Victor McCusick about isolated growth hormone deficiency among the Qatarites. First time in my life that I was scooped. And so you know what that feeling is like. Well, thank you for that introduction. Now I'd like to go on with my talk. No, I'm not going to talk. But if I did, this is what I would have talked about. From the time that I spent in training in Cleveland, and then graduate work in Rochester, and then time in McGill, arrived at Mass General, and we were fortunate to be funded as one of the 2 Huntington's disease centers without walls by NIH. And in 1983, we published the first marker on chromosome 4, and then 10 years later, Jim Gazella and an international collaboration found the gene. It was the first example of using RFLPs and family studies to identify a location genomically using RIFLIPs, and Jim Gazella and his team went on to find the gene. I would talk about the promise of genomic analysis, all of its pieces, about orphan diseases and the hope for their treatment, and then the limitations for patients. Research is time-consuming and expensive. Drugs are only available to limited populations because of expense, and access to treatments for the uninsured is a major concern. So thank you very much for being here, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you very much, Dr. Martin. The talk you didn't give is actually a great introduction to what we want to do today. If yesterday was about diagnostics, today will be focused more on the pharmaceutical industry, and we will be considering the expense of research and development to create new therapies, issues of capital formation, and especially the issue of access and equity in healthcare. So we have a really big day planned, and it is my pleasure now to introduce Tony Andrew, who will lead us through a discussion of 4 different national strategies to promote personalized medicine, in keeping with the theme of the Personalized Medicine Coalition, that what we do at the public policy makes a difference for the advancement of this field. So let me turn it over to Tony, who is the scientific director of an organization called IATRIS, and Tony will tell us a little bit more about what that is and its role in the European Union.
Thank you, Edward. Well, first of all, I would like to invite members of the panels to come here. Thank you for your introduction. And I want to say something. First time I came to the PMC conference was about, I think, 8 years ago. Coming from Europe in a moment in which strategies for personalized medicine were just at the beginning. And I have to say I was shocked by the energy, by the commitment, and by the expertise of this community. And I think these values, energy, commitment, and expertise, are the key elements for success. Most of you that were here last year probably remember some words that Lisa Maria Vuopio, the Chief Scientific Officer of the Ministry of Health in Finland, said on this very stage. She said something that I think captures very beautifully the energy or the flavor of the last hours that we've been together. She said, personalized medicine is not a revolution, it's an evolution. And I think this is beautiful because it means that we keep moving forward. We are doing what human nature is being for. I mean, progressing towards the future. So Ed, I have a request for you, which is next year, instead of having a wine goblet, we should have a T-shirt saying, keep calm and do personalized medicine, okay? So this is... Yesterday, Stephen Chuck reminded us that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And we also heard that there are no walls that separate industry, academia, and healthcare providers, that walls are only in our minds. So with this idea of breaking down walls, we acknowledge that it's really important for the personalized medicine community to have cross-border perspectives on strategies for the adoption of personalized medicine. It has been already a tradition in this conference to have an international panel where personalized medicine leaders from different countries come to share with us their vision and their strategies for the development and implementation of personalized medicine. And we are lucky today to have here 3 leaders that represent this international vision. We are happy to discuss with them how personalized medicine is being adopted in their home countries. So I like to start this discussion with 2 premises, and I think they are important. First of all, is that challenges and opportunities are global. So solutions, up to a certain extent, must be global too. Therefore, sharing experiences at a global level must be a key element for progressing in the implementation of personalized medicine. And the second premise, and in this case, in this panel, I think is particularly relevant, is that governmental strategies are indeed important because they engineer the system, and through a top-down approach, they create a framework where bottom-up solutions can appear. So I think it's great, and I really appreciate that you ladies please, I want to notice that this is an all-female panel, and I think this is just great news. Unfortunately, the 4 members of the panel couldn't come because she had an unforeseen situation. But anyway, it's great to have you here. We have with us Dr. Wada Al-Mufta. Wada is Manager of Clinical Initiatives at the Qatar Genome Program, and she's also Instructor of Genomic Medicine at Weill Cornell Medical Center in Qatar. We also have Raquel Yotti. Raquel is General Director of the Spanish National Institute of Health. That institution is responsible for the Spanish personalized medicine roadmap. And also Erja Heikkinen, right? Yes, right. Erja is Deputy Director at the Ministry of Education and Culture in Finland. And of course, the first question, it goes without saying, is an obvious one. What are you doing for implementing personalized medicine in your countries? And in particular, we are very interested in learning from you examples of success that demonstrate that personalized medicine became a reality in the framework of the healthcare system. Wada?
Okay, first, thank you, Tony, for the introduction. And I would like to first thank the organizing committee for inviting me today. First of all, back to your question. In Qatar, since the implementation of precision medicine is at early stage, I would like first to talk about the model that we built and created in Qatar to advance implementation of precision medicine. And actually, we started in 2011 when the Qatar Biobank was first launched. And Qatar Biobank act as a national resource for health data and genomics data and multi-omics data. We are targeting the local community to recruit the Qatari population. And today we have reached a huge milestone where we recruited more than 20,000 Qataris with more than 600,000 samples, and these samples include blood samples, saliva, and urine. And these samples and participants are deeply phenotyped and very well characterized, and we have collecting a lot of health information and health surveys. And by the end of pilot phase in 2014 of Qatar Biobank, we identified some undiagnosed cases in the biobank clinic, and we found that more than 18% of Qatari participants in the biobank were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and more than 50% were diagnosed with vitamin D deficiency and abnormal lipid profile, and they were at high risk of developing cardiovascular disease. And those actually identified cases were referred to Hamad Medical Corporation. Hamad Medical Corporation is the main healthcare provider in Qatar, and in Qatar we have a centralized healthcare system. Hamad Medical Corporation manage 9 hospitals in Qatar. One is the Hamad Medical Center, or Hamad Hospital as we call it. It's a general hospital. It is specialized in secondary and tertiary healthcare, in addition to other healthcare centers like the Heart Hospital, the Oncology Hospital, and all these hospitals are managed and regulated under the umbrella of Hamad Medical Corporation and the Ministry of Public Health. And after the discovery of the health issues identified through the Qatar Biobank, a few years later, the government launched a Qatar Genome Program in order to understand deeply and to have a full genome profile of each Qatari individual, and with the aim of having a sequence the whole population to understand the health profile of the Qataris. And to do that, we put a strategy to have a fully integration with the Qatar Biobank and working with the government to set the policies and regulations to advance precision medicine and genome medicine, and to utilize the local infrastructure, genome infrastructure and bioinformatics infrastructure, in addition to creating educational programs for the community and for the healthcare provider to advance the implementation of precision medicine. And maybe here I can share some of the health initiatives that we are working on currently in terms of advancing implementation of precision medicine. We created one example is the interpretation of whole genome sequencing. To date, we created almost 18,000 genomes, all Qataris, and now the question that was raised by everyone, by the local community, you are sequencing our genome and we are not getting anything or any feedback. So we thought that we should provide them with some information. There's a huge interest from the local population to understand their genome, mainly their disease and what is the future of their health. So we thought before going into having this deep disease-based genome reports, we started with giving them some information about their general health and weight-related traits, especially that obesity is one of the main public health issues in Qatar. So we established a pipeline to generate a translated information going directly to the public through the Qatar Biobank to give them an insight about their health and and to educate them about their health, about precision medicine, and what is the future of having their genome sequenced. And this will be at the first phase that we are currently now completed this, and we are now directly communicating with the public to give them their information through a genetic counselor in the clinic of Qatar Biobank. And in the next phase, we will move into giving information about pharmacogenomics, and this will be fully integrated with the clinical pharmacy department in Hamad Medical Corporation. And at the third phase, we will move into providing more of disease-focused reports, mainly cancer and rare diseases. And honestly, we are not working phase by phase. We are actually working on the 3 phases in parallel. Now we are working on establishing the pharmacogenomic platform with the clinical pharmacy department at Hamad Medical Corporation. In parallel, also, we created a working group with the physicians and scientists to understand their needs out of the genome data that we have, to establish the platform or the pipeline for disease genome reporting.
That's very impressive, and I think at this point of the communication with the public and generate trust in the public is something which is one of the key elements, of course, for the development of specific strategies. Area, what's the profile of the personalized medicine strategy in Finland? Because Finland is one country where personalized medicine has been implemented for a long time. So,
yeah, thank you, and thanks for having me here today. First of all, let me tell a little bit about the Finnish background. We are an open, competence-based economy located in a weird, very Nordic place, and we speak language that almost nobody can understand. And we have a lot.
I can certify that.
Yeah. Our country is pretty large. If you compare it to the size of the population, it's only 5.6 million of us, and 1/4 of the population is living in the capital area. And there's 3,000 inhabitants per square kilometer in the south, in the capital area. But we have areas where there's only 0.2 inhabitants per square kilometer. And still it's in our constitution that we are to provide the population with equal social and healthcare services, no matter where they live, the people, and no matter what their socioeconomic background is. So everybody has a guaranteed service system in place, whether there's only reindeers in their neighbor or whether they have actual human neighbors. And if you think of this situation, it brings us to the recognition of all policies being intertwined. Higher education, research, innovation, social and health, regional, everything is intertwined. And this brings us to the national strategy. So we have recognized with the Ministry of Social and Health Affairs, the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Employment, and my ministry, Ministry of Education, Science and Culture, that we have to do this together. We have to promote personalized medicine, first the knowledge on the biological processes, then knowledge on the impact of applying this biological knowledge in the healthcare system, and then in the actual service system, we have to be there together. Because if the healthcare personnel is not with us, we can't make this happen. And at the current stage, the personnel doesn't have all the capabilities needed in order to utilize the information, but we certainly do have the basics taken well care of. We have a long record in medical genetics and clinical research, and very high level of that in Finland. We have a leading cancer medicine academic center in Helsinki, in Europe. And we have the healthcare services I already mentioned, provided to everybody. Everything, all information of the incidences in the health and social care system are recorded digitally. We have in place an authority that provides researchers with all information from public registers including Statistics Finland and other players. For research purposes, we collaborate with Big Pharma within Finland. Many of the companies have established an office in Finland for the purpose that we have a competence base they want to utilize. We have invested in infrastructure. We are with you in IATRIS and other European infrastructures. And our infrastructure investments include also data management and high-performance computing capabilities to the extent that in a year we will be hosting in Finland a European pre-exascale supercomputer worth of 200 million euro. And this is a European infrastructure that is in usage for also international collaboration. So, for example, the researchers in the US have an access to these facilities. And when we have that computer, it will be the fastest in the world for public research. And the reason why I'm concentrating on this that much is that we have a lot of data, and our data is in your usage if you wish. But data is not enough. It's just a haystack, and you know that you have the needles there. But with the modern data management and computing power, you can find needles you even didn't know that exist. And Finland also is a country where almost everybody speaks English. So if you wish to collaborate with Finns, we have a means to communicate even though you don't speak Finnish. And that would be...
That's good to know.
Yeah, that would be more or less what I wanted to say at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it's interesting. You mentioned the organization I represent, IATRIS, the European Infrastructure for Translational Medicine. I think it's relevant for the PMC community because that represents an organization of 13 different European countries, including Finland and Spain in this case, and the alliance of 90 research institutions, most of them university hospitals, that they have decided to set up an agenda for developing tools for the progress and implementation of personalized medicine. So I feel we are in a kind of a sweet moment for the future, and we should take advantage of this energy that has been created. This is also the situation in Spain, Raquel, because Spain has been working also hard in the progress and implementation of personalized medicine, and I think you can share with us some examples of success from the Spanish side, right?
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today, sharing some of the experiences from in the implementation of personalized medicine in Spain, and also some more personal thoughts about the central role that physicians and the healthcare providers needs to play in the process of implementation. Because if we do not take into account physicians that are the central core of the process, we are going to fail. So in Spain, as you may know, we also have an universal coverage health system. That means that coverage is guaranteed by law. We have a national health system that provides care to all citizens, to all people. And in contrast to other European countries, our system is decentralized. That means that the direct providers of healthcare are the regional administrations, but we have centralized all the coordination of the strategy in the Ministry of Health, and also the regulatory process, and also research. Research is a national competency, and the Institute of Health Carlos III, that I'm currently served as a director, is the main funding public organization for biomedical research, but we not only fund research, but use research to vertebrate the national health system. And we are in that very interesting space between health and science. It's this broad shared space, so we can promote research, but we are also very close to the physicians in the hospital. So we can help this interaction between the research field and the clinical application. So in this kind of system, I think that we are in a very good place for implementation. And so far, I think we are in a similar point that other European countries in the field of rare disease, cancer, and also pharmacogenomics, personalized medicine implementation. We have all the citizens have access, especially in the field of rare disease, to genomic testing. And now we are working. What I'd like to tell you more about is about a new plan that we are now implementing related to advanced therapies. Because now we have a new challenge that is how can we make the new therapies, I mean cell therapies and genetic drugs and genetic therapies and also bioengineering products. How can we ensure that the whole population has access, and we need to make a new process to ensure not only equity, but also safety and quality and sustainability. So maybe I can talk more about the whole project later, but it's something that we are putting a lot of effort and energy in, because it's something that is changing, and is changing very fast. So we need to be prepared, well prepared, to give this new kind of care. And the other thing that is very important for us is that in the implementation process we need to engage. I told before physicians, but with a particular putting particular attention on primary care physicians, GPs, because they are the door to entry to the system. And of course, we need to have, especially for rare disease, a very specialized centers, referral centers, and in Spain we have a network of referral centers for specific rare diseases and also for specific rare cancers. But if we want to promote a systemic change, something that is going to transform the way healthcare is delivered, we need to involve the whole clinical community, including primary care clinicians. So I think this is difficult, but if we want to transform the way that we are doing medicine, we need to consider that, and we are doing, I think, a pretty big effort towards this direction.
I think you ladies point out to three elements that from a strategic point of view, I think they are essential for the right progress of personalized medicine. One is the educational layer. I think these essential elements that we've been discussing a little bit during the day yesterday, generating trust in the public, and this other essential point, which is to develop a system in which the access to personalized medicine is going to happen, right? So, and these are strategic layers. So these are decisions that have to be designed top-down. How do you face in Qatar this element for educating the medical community for embracing personalized medicine?
First, I come from an organization called Qatar Foundation that supports education, science, and community development. And under the umbrella of Qatar Foundation, we have the Education City, which is a hub for maybe more than 5 international academic institutes and local institutes. So education is a major element in the execution of our strategy. So we are not only targeting the healthcare professional in terms of education, we are targeting the school students, the community, and the healthcare providers.
Sorry, school students, you talk to
We talk-
students about what personalized medicine or genomic medicine is?
Yes, we talk to them about a very basic. We start with them about what DNA is and what can you get out of your DNA. We teach them that how to understand their heritage, their health, and their future. And to do that, we for the schools, for the children and for the school student specifically, we created a DNA exhibition in one of the national museums in Qatar, and the exhibition is called DNA Exhibition. It will take the students through the whole process of understanding the DNA, starting from the nucleus until you have your sequence, and what health implementation can happen with your genome.
And what do you do with doctors, Wada?
Yeah, well.
Do they also go to this exhibition, or?
Well, everyone is welcome to go to this exhibition. It is open for the public, and we use it as a tool, as an educational tool for the community and for the students. And we arrange tours for the students and for the public also to go to the DNA and to explore their DNA and understand their genomes. Also, as part of the community and children education, we collaborated with one of the famous local press in Qatar that produce a comic magazine for the children, targeting the children from age 7 to 16. And we created a series of comic stories, of course, in Arabic. Unfortunately, you cannot read the stories, educating the community and educating the students about health, about DNA, about Qatar Biobank, about Qatar Genome, about healthcare in Qatar, and the all research activities that happen in Qatar. Going to your question about the doctors, a few years ago, we did a survey asking the healthcare professionals what do they need to really understand precision medicine and genome medicine, and what will help them to implement this in their clinic. We all know that physicians are very busy, and it's very hard to change their behavior and to shift from the traditional or classical clinical care into more precision medicine implementation. So we found that what they really lack is the training and education. And for that, we collaborated with the 2 national academic institutes in Qatar. One is Qatar University, which is the main governmental university, and it's free, and it offers a free education for everyone. And the other one is the Hamad bin Khalifa University, which is located in the Education City. We created 2 postgraduate programs for healthcare professionals, one in genetic counseling, because we lack genetic counselors, bilingual genetic counselors. And in Qatar, we have only 2 or 3 genetic counselors who are bilingual and understand the culture in our community. So we need to create a genetic counseling program. And next April, we will have the first graduate out of this program who can go to the clinic and practice genetic counseling and offer genetic counseling for the patients. And another program is genomic medicine and precision medicine. It is a multidisciplinary postgraduate graduate program targeting only the physicians to educate them and provide them knowledge about genome and precision medicine.
This layer that you ladies have mentioned about generating trust and the role of the public in the development of a global personalized medicine agenda, I think it's quite interesting to mention. Last week, we were in another personalized medicine meeting with some Finnish colleagues, and they told us something which is very interesting. We've been talking to them about data sharing. And then they mentioned the fact that when the concept data sharing was shared with the Finnish community, the public felt quite reluctant because this idea of sharing your data was not, was not just working in the mindset. But there was a complete change of societal behavior when the concept was moved to allowing access to your data, up to a point that 95% of the Finnish population is willing to enroll in personalized medicine initiatives, is willing to allow access to their data. And I think this is extremely interesting from a, let's say, psychological point of view, right? Because at the end of the day, we are going to do the same, but emphasizing the idea that the data belong to the patient, of course. So, Aria, what's your perception about this?
Yeah, we discussed this last night with you, and I had to track down what actually was said in the seminar you were pointing to, and it was not actually about sharing your data or using your data, it was about digitalization.
Okay.
So the attitudes towards digitalizing all your health and social information, Finns say yes to. But if you start to talk about what do you do with these digitalized data, then the story is different. Okay. But as we speak, actually, a barometer was published in Finland on science, how the general public does perceive scientific information on science and scientists. And there are some quite promising results, because now half of the population thinks that we should invest more in gene and genome research. And this is a better result than we have had previously. But we are somewhat worried about other results of that parameter. But yes, Finns are for digitalization, for technological gadgets, for everything being mobile. But when you start talking about genes, the story is different. If you ask Finns, should we invest in space research? They would answer, oh, I don't know too much about astrophysics, so I can't really comment. But if you ask them, should we make more use of the genomes and the very peculiar genome pool of Finns, they say, look, don't mess with my genome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So still a long way to go, basically. I think probably the media has something to do with in this story, right? That's something that we need to think about. This meeting I mentioned before was the meeting of the International Consortium of Personalized Medicine, ICPERMED. This is a large global organization. Spain holds the secretariat. Could you tell us a little bit about this initiative and what ICPERMED is doing?
Well, ICPERMED brings together over 40 funding agencies, ministries, and other international organizations, not only in Europe, but international organization, and is growing now. And the aim of this organization is using research as a tool for personalized medicine implementation. And the main point is that if we have different challenges that we need to face, it's easier to face them together, not only in the research arena, but also in inducing research for implementation. And there are some different packages in which personalized ICPERMED is working right now. A package related to data, also public engagement, education, and of course research. And we are not focusing only on using research for improving our knowledge about biological processes and biomarkers, but also we are funding research that is going to show the benefits in terms of efficacy, safety, and cost, and healthy economics of personalized medicine implementation.
So now that we have here 3 governmental representatives, I think it's quite interesting to have your vision about on the fact that, of course, there is no question that cooperation between policymakers at the governmental level and the industry, pharma and biotech, is essential for accelerating the adoption of personalized medicine. How you articulate this collaboration in your home countries at the governmental and the industry level? Because this is a multi-stakeholder journey that we all have to participate. Please feel free.
Okay. So at least in Finland, we are a country of low hierarchy. So everybody can call a minister, and the minister will answer if he or she has the time to do it. And so we believe in open dialogue, open science, open innovation, being transparent. And conducting dialogues with the industries is also on my agenda and my hierarchy's agenda. We talk directly to industries. We, of course, talk directly to the researcher and higher education community. And I think talking together and sort of searching for the common ground is essential in order to get this through. And at least in a small country, this is a method that works.
But is it somehow a structure, or is it some sort of random dialogue, or?
There's structures in place because there's 3 ministries and 3 political parties involved, so there's certainly structures, but we also do it ad hoc. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Raquel?
Well, I think in Spain we have room for improvement in the public relationship between this private-public relationship. But we have, as I have told before, we have a system that is, I think, is a very good system, a centralized system for personalized medicine implementation, and we think that we can build new relationship with industry, and we are on the way right now. Actually, in the project of advanced therapies implementation in the national health system, we have started to have transparent and open conversations with industry. That the industry, the pharmaceutical companies that are manufacturing, in this case, CAR-T cells. And I think that is going to be a very productive dialogue because it's helping us to understand that we can develop new systems for example, cost sharing, or reimbursement, new models for reimbursement. And well, we know that we have work to do, but I think we are on the way.
So my last comment or question before we open the floor for Q&A is I think that in the future development for the different models of personalized medicine, depending on every country, there's going to be some sort of balancing between a centralized model in which we are going to have strong national reference centers providing personalized medicine services to the healthcare community. That's the model, for instance, of Japan and Denmark, that they're going to create, or in the process of creating these huge national sequencing centers, or a more decentralized model where different healthcare providers or healthcare institutions will develop their own personalized medicine strategies. How you see in the future is going to be, and of course it depends on the societal structure of the country, but what's your perception about that?
Well, in Qatar, we have a centralized system. So going back to what I explained earlier during this discussion, we built the infrastructure. We have the biobank. We have the genome program. and we have the infrastructure, bioinformatics infrastructure, and the genome sequencing infrastructure. And these all centers are like around the country. This all will be fully integrated under one institute. It's called Qatar Precision Medicine Institute, which has been announced recently and will be launched early next year. So we are moving into fully integration between all the models that we have in Qatar, the different platforms, the different players in the advancing implementation of precision medicine under one big centralized institute called the Qatar Precision Medicine Institute. So I believe, because I come from a small country with a huge ambition, with the infrastructure and the huge investment in healthcare and in research, being centralized is the best option for us, especially that the healthcare system is centralized. So why we just go and do moving the implementation of precision medicine in different centers? We are centralizing everything, and this will help advance the precision
So that
medicine.
probably in Finland and Spain would work in a different direction, right? Or not?
Actually, we are about to found a genome center. So all data curation and maintenance will be done centrally, but all research is done in different locations across the country. And for a small country, this is the only cost-effective way of doing it, that we somehow centrally manage the data.
Yeah.
But I think that there are some things that we can and we should centralize. For example, technology facilities, sequencing centers, or a biobank. But if we are talking about personalized medicine, we need to say that we need to decentralize even to the hospital and primary care center the concept, because we are often talking about data integration. But medicine is not only about data. There are other kinds of information that evolves within the patient-clinician relationship and is related to the expectations, the values, and the needs of the patient. So we need to integrate also that kind of information. And for that purpose, we need to empower the clinicians to understand, give them the tools to understand all the data that is being generated and stored in a central place, but then we need to provide them with the data, because they are the only person, they are the key person in the relationship, both the patient and the clinician, and they both need to have the access to all the information to make the proper decisions.
Interesting. Probably we are thinking about some sort of hub and spoke model in which, depending on the structure of the country, the energy should be put more concentrated on a central area, more at the peripheral level. Anyway, we are kind of running late, and coffee is important, but it's time for Q&A, so please go ahead.
Excuse me. Thanks. Dan Milner from ASCP. So I have a quick comment and then a question. The comment is there's currently an NIH program from the Common Fund for $62 million at a minimum, as well as from the Rockefeller Foundation for $100 million to invest in data science and data science development in Africa. And I think that that is a huge opportunity for the people in this group, in the industry as well as academia, to think about how to leapfrog personalized medicine on the continent of Africa with those two investments, and maybe even parallel investments from industry. My question is, a lot of the programs you've described from government, which are amazing, have really been about data collection and generating data. Have you had any opportunity, or do you foresee an opportunity with your governments to learn from that data and make a public policy change or even a public health expenditure change that's informed by what you're learning from personalized medicine?
I think it's what we are doing is more than data collection and data generation. We are working closely with the healthcare professionals to develop more of a diagnostic and platforms and understanding the patient's needs and the physician's needs. Maybe I can here talk about an example. We are, yes, collecting data and we are collecting information and we are setting the policies on how to use these data and share these data locally and internationally and putting the regulations for that. But in terms of implementing this and understanding these data, we started with the heart hospital in Qatar, working with the cardiologist to build a cardiovascular biorepository. This is one of the biggest programs that we have at the moment to build a hub or a model where we can fully integrate these data into the healthcare system. So we are using this cardiovascular biorepository as a learning experience or a learning platform, having this large data coming from the heart hospital. This was the best approach for us to move into the implementation and full integration in the health system.
Very shortly, because we have a couple of more questions and time is running out.
Yeah, thanks. Very intelligent question. 2 examples. We have made the decision to invest heavily into the data and data handling and supercomputing facilities. We haven't seen anything like that in decades in Finland. So this is one indication of policy change. And another one is that we have new legislation in place as for the secondary usage of healthcare data. It's now possible, it wasn't before.
Just very quick, please, questions.
Hi. I just want to thank Qatar and Finland and I forgot,
Spain.
for the work, because we want to go there. And yes, we are not a centralized, and that caveat has to stop that. And I thought of a way, which is to localize, not socialize medicine in this country and provide it in loci and connected to the deep learning labs and the academic centers and the hospitals. And there are our supercomputers, and soon we should have quantum computers.
Yeah.
But education, the reason we don't accept it is that we know nothing. And I'm speaking as patients and people, but also doctors in practice. And those people in practice have no time to, and they should be grandfathered into CEUs and go through we could just use everything you've all said today.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Last question.
Thank you very much. So my question a little bit detailed related to technology, and it's kind of related to the local versus centralized model. My name is Bo from Foundation Medicine. So for the technology and tests we use for detecting this genomic signature variants, so how can you ensure the results are similar to the tests used during drug development? In US, we have the CDX model, this companion diagnostic model, to make sure the test patient eventually use will have the similar result as when the test is generated during the drug development. But in your case, how do you ensure the patient will benefit most from the drug? And to avoid that, there may be some difference caused by the difference of technology or test itself.
That's interesting, because next year we should have a panel called Global Standardization of Personalized Medicine Technologies, probably, right? Very quick reaction. Yeah. Anyway, this is of course it's an issue, and I think it's a challenge that we all have, and we really need to work together. Very last question.
Fatima Núñez from Valdebron Hospital in Barcelona, Spain. And I'm very grateful to have heard today the role of physicians from the Spanish representative, that it should be central. But there is something that worries me working in a hospital as we do. The paradigm of how healthcare is provided and organized within hospitals is about to change with personalized medicine. We're going to put the patients in the center. Probably the processes in the hospitals will have to change from these departmental silos, not talking to each other, to something that is more across the board. The physicians will have to talk to each other, will have to be a more holistic approach to this. This is a huge demand that we're going to make of all the hospitals probably in the future. And I was wondering, how do you see the role for this change, how we can help the hospitals do that from your point of view, and how we can actually help change this structural, more sort of systemic approach to providing personalized medicine within the hospital setting?
Wow, we should have a beer. Yeah, that's it's a really fascinating challenge. That's what we are here for discussing these issues. So thank you to all of you for your participation. Thank you to these 3 personalized medicine leaders, and we hope to have even better news coming from your side next year. Thank you.
And thank you, Tony. So we're going to take a 15-minute break, and when we return, we're going to be treated by an interview of Meg Terrell of CNBC News, of Paul Stoffels, Vice Chair of Johnson & Johnson. So please come back at 10:15.